Remember this guy from last week? Well, I did forget something about this particular bill. I forgot to bring out the book and show you guys exactly what something like this is worth. So I'm going to start this week off by checking out that. Hey everyone, welcome to another $1,000 strap search. We're going to catch up on what I screwed up on last week just by not showing the value of this particular bill. So I'm busting out the book. Should have done this last week. You can see it right here. There is the 1886 $5 silver certificate. And if we look down here, there we go, 1886. This particular one is the first one, number 268 with Tillman and Morgan, I believe, were the names on there. You can see in very good 8, it starts at 850, and that price goes to 1,500 rather quickly. At grade 20, very fine, you're talking $2,300. If we go all the way to the end, 16,000 if that bill is gem mint. So yeah, I always said if I was going to bring out bills like these bills here and some of the other bills, I wanted to give you guys an idea of what the book says these are valued at. But that's not what we're here for. We're here for the $1,000 strap search, and we're here to see what else I've brought. So, to get back to my normal format, we start off with today's hint. Today's hint, you may already be aware of this because most of you are coin collectors. Me, I am a bill collector. Well, I shouldn't say I'm a bill collector. That sounds pretty bad. I collect paper money. I am not going to come knocking on your door saying you owe me anything. However, I have listened to some of you guys, and I have begun collecting coins. And this was my latest discovery. And it's no big deal. This is simply a 1940 Mercury dime. Yay for me. Goody, goody, goody. But my hint is how I got it. And most of you already know this hint, but I'll put it out there in case you just haven't thought of it. I went to my local big box store, and I went to the Red Box and got a movie for myself. And right next to the Red Box was a Coinstar. So I checked the return slot of the Coinstar, and lo and behold, I found myself a Mercury dime. 1940 Mercury dime found at a Coinstar. So that's my hint for this week. When you are out and about, don't be ashamed to check the Coinstars. If you feel like you're kind of groveling, or if you feel like you're just picking up change or anything like that, take a look, and if there's no silver in there, leave it. If you feel bad about checking. But yeah, if there's silver there, that's just left in the coin return, there you go. That's free silver. So yeah, silver is selling at for 12 to 18 times face value. So that means the silver value of this particular coin, that puts that at anywhere from $1.20 to $1.80. And I checked in the red book, and I believe this was $2.75, even in grade 4, even in good. And it's probably better than that. But anyway, that's today's tip. If you're out and about, don't forget to check those Coinstars. Doesn't take but a second, and you never know what you're going to find. So I'll add that little piece to my stack, and we'll get this stuff out of the way and see what this week's finds are. Starting off, found another stamp. We've seen this stamp before, not to be used to bribe politicians. Let's see, not to be used to bribe politicians. Let's zoom in on that. If you find this, let me know. And then he's got stamper ME/079. So I don't know where to check that, what to do with it. I'll even double check the back. Oh, there is something on the back there. Not to be used for buying elections. Amend the Constitution, and then stampede.org, #get money out of politics is what that's going to be. I always find it neat to see the different stamps and stuff that are used on bills. It's people's way of communicating with the public pre-social media. So that's just interesting. It's definitely a cultural thing. All right. Let's see what else we got here. This here is a fairly crisp trinary, 0s, 3s, and 6s, but it had this mark, so that also caught my attention, but under close examination, that's not an ink smear, that's just dirt. You're going to get a lot of dirt on there. Don't be afraid of dirt. Dirt don't hurt. Another trinary. This one's zeros, ones, and sevens. Zeros, threes, and eights. Threes, fours, and nines. This one has quads. This one is quad deuces, quad twos there with threes and eights, so it's a trinary and quads. This one is quad fours. Got an anniversary note or a birthday note. This one would be 9/22/1937, so that is September 22nd, 1937. And then I've got my stars. Good pull on stars this time. Got quite a few, some of them in better condition than others. I didn't see a whole lot of zeros on these, so not a whole lot of hopes for good stuff. I'm pretty certain my next video is going to show all of the rares that I come up with on stars, because my pile is just about full. But you can see I found quite a few. This was one of the oldest stars I had in this pull. This is from 2006. Not in the best of shape, but it is just a piece of paper that's been floating around in circulation since 2006. Another star note here, also 2006. The older bills that I had this week. This one's 1999. 1999 is severely worn, probably going to go back. 1995, fairly crisp. Like this bill. 1995, not so crisp, but well, there's good paper quality there yet. Another 1995. And remember, 88A, 93, and 95, you're always double checking right here. If it's got a letter, it's a regular note, but if it just has that teeny tiny little number there, if it's just the number, that is a web press note. Those hold value anywhere from $15 to $800, maybe more if it's a star note. 1988A, once again we're checking for that. Found a 1977A. 1977A. That I don't see a whole lot of the 1977, so that always brings me joy. And then a 1977 without the A. So the original 1977 series versus the A series. This note is very crisp. Definitely going to go into the binder. I live close to Chicago, so I get a lot of the G notes. G represents Chicago, so whenever I see notes other than G notes that are older ones, those are probably notes I don't have in my collection. F, of course, being Atlanta. So this is probably a note that's going to fill a hole in my personal collection, rather than just a note that's going to go in my stack, because of its quality and because of its rareness. And I say rareness because if I've searched 90,000 notes and haven't found that particular Federal Reserve of that particular date, you know it's harder to find. So, that's the stuff I found this week. What else do I have for you? Well, I started off talking about this dime here that I found, and that got me thinking. If I talk to you about a quarter, you know I'm referring to a quarter of a dollar. And if I talk to you about a nickel, you know I'm referring to a 5-cent coin that used to be called a half dime, but got the nickname nickel because they changed the metal content to nickel. If I talk to you about a penny, penny is actually the nickname for a pence. The United States currency, it's technically a cent. So when you call a penny, you're actually calling it the wrong thing. Technically, it's a cent. So they should be called cents, but even the boxes on cents are labeled pennies. So it's not like there is a demand, you must call it a cent. But that's where the nickname penny came from. It's the shorter child, well, it's not shorter, but it's the more fun name of pence. 1 pence is a penny, and that's where we came up with penny. But what about the dime? Where does that come from? How do we get dime? Well, it turns out that the initial 10-cent pieces, and not necessarily U.S. currency, but the initial 10-cent pieces were called dimes. I should keep that in focus there while I talk. Well, they were called dimes, but they were spelt just a little differently. They were spelt D-I-S-M-E, but they were still pronounced dime. They had the S silent. But D-I-S-M-E, and it just looked a little unusual to us, but to them, they knew why it was called a dime. It was called a dime because the Latin word for a tenth is Dismus. Okay, Dismus is Latin for a tenth, and a dime is 1/10 of a dollar. So when they decided to name the 1/10 of a dollar coin, they used the Latin dismus, and they just dropped the back end of it, so you had Disme. Excuse me. So that's what they started calling these dimes. Dismes, dimes. Eventually, since they stopped pronouncing the S, it just went to dimes like we know today, Dimes. But if you were ever wondering why a dime is a dime and not a 10-cent piece or anything else, it came from the Latin dismus, which is also where we get the word decimal. So there's my useless knowledge trivia for today. But since we're talking dimes, I decided to bust out an old dime of mine. And this is from the Act of March 31st, 1863. This is a Civil War dime. Civil War dime, this is actually this is from the third printing of Civil War fractional currency. Fractional currency was used because during the Civil War, people were hoarding all of the precious metals they could, so making change became extremely difficult. So a bill like this was printed. Initially, it was called postal currency because the post office was the one that did things like this. They did the stamps. Once they did the second series, then it became known as fractional currency. Only the first series was called postal currency. But as you can see, this one here has George Washington on it, and it even says right on it, fractional currencies right there. And it is teeny, 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 tiny. We'll bust out the bill here, and you can see how small that is compared to a normal size bill. They did make fractional currencies in dimes, quarters, and they had 15-cent pieces. They had 50-cent pieces, I guess you'd call it. They had some other stuff too, but this here is the 1863 10-cent fractional currency. I have shown some fractional currency in the past. There's the back of it there. That it's kind of hard to read the writing on there because of the script that it's in, but it basically says that this note is available for deposit and is guaranteed by the Treasurer of the United States to be worth X amount of dollars and can be exchanged using a certain amount. I believe when I showed my original war nickel, the amount was could be traded in for amounts greater than $5. If you were to bring them into the bank, you could bring in $5 worth of these and they'd give you a $5 gold coin. But the whole point was to keep these in circulation, not to hoard them and bring them back to the banks because coins were getting fairly scarce. So as far as fractional currency, we can check this in the book as well because my book has paper money. And if we check this out, I know that this one is the third edition. Well, let's flip over here and take a peek. There it is. And I know this one had the green reverse, so it is 1255 as far as the FR number goes. And that would put it 25 in very good, 30 in fine, 45, 50, 100, 140, and 500 if it was gem uncirculated. And there's the note in the book. And as you can see, that is what we are talking about right there. Real deal. Be careful when buying fractionals because there's a lot of counterfeit stuff out there. It's always good to have a book like that to verify your sources. All right, so that's what I've got for you this week. If you guys like what you see, go ahead and hit that like button if you learned something new. If you want to see more, go ahead and subscribe. I enjoy seeing all of my comments. And for those of you, Pat's Piling Pennies is one for sure who's been sending a lot of people my way, and I really appreciate that. I try to put out good content and interesting stuff. Maybe you'll accidentally learn something. I enjoy teaching, and I enjoy growing the hobby as much as I can. Thanks for watching, everyone. Enjoy, and I'll see you next week.